Hey everyone, Thyworm here with the third and I think last episode of this Big Ducks Wonder Champion. In this episode I made perhaps a bit of a controversial decision, but I'll get to that. Let's dive in. My struggle with single target, as was apparent in the last episode, continues. These mercenaries are tanky, sure, but not normally this tanky. As a result, dying to them still happens quite often because I just don't kill them fast enough. With the help of shrines and other character power, however, it is possible to push through red maps slowly but surely. I still basically have no other gear in this fresh SSF run to put on these guys, so that's not really helping too much. I buy some more regret orbs for some more respecking, this time losing the attack speed and gaining some crit. Last episode I failed the 4th lap miserably, but after getting another offering and now having much better gear and a better mercenary, it is time to go again. This time Isaro goes down without many issues and the final ascendancy, inspirational, is for aura effect. Seems this build doesn't use a banner. I also craft some experience on my elemental hit gem. I find Egan. I keep struggling with high red tier single target damage, as is illustrated by this golem, who is perfectly willing to prove my point. This map doesn't even have increased life on it. These bosses are doable, also this guy at a tier 15 palace map, but it is a bit of a chore and I'm not necessarily having a great time here. Fortunately, what will definitely lift my spirits is these guys, right? I've completed both quest lines for the first 2 pinnacle bosses, meaning the Eater of Worlds is up first. I slot in barrage support instead of returning projectiles for single target, which is supposed to help, theoretically. I still am channeling my inner Queen 69 though with this build, as it does 0 DPS, but it is pretty tanky. I can face tank most of this guy's abilities, and although I wouldn't recommend it, as I think I can still get crit, for example, if pinnacle bosses do crit, I actually don't know, but the tankiness on the build is absolutely there, so it's quite comfortable in that regard. After defeating him, it's time for the Searing Exarch, and here you will notice the same thing, to absolutely no one's surprise. Very little damage, but good uptime as I can stand in most abilities. I cannot tank the balls, clearly, not many builds can. And I can't stand on the burning ground either, that gives too big of a debuff and then I will die. But at no time did I feel this was a close fight in any way, which is worth something too. It's not a bosser, this build, that's for sure, but you can quite easily defeat these pinnacle bosses. The main issue for me so far with this build is that I'm simply not having a whole lot of fun. And if you watch my channel, I prioritize having fun over anything else in this game. I enjoy the solo self-found struggles, that is not the issue here. I mean, I play solo self-found exclusively, I am up for that challenge. But here, it just feels there's no point in playing this build unless you get the pieces from the guide, and as those include 3 uniques that can take ages in SSF. And am I really going to spend my entire weekend farming those pieces while my regular SSF league just has these laying around? And the answer is no. To me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. As I created this as a private SSF league, I am able to merge this character and this entire league in fact with the SSF Mercenaries League. This allows me to continue playing in SSF Mercenaries, meaning I now gain a potentially fast mapper to my arsenal of characters. It also means I can equip several of the missing uniques to make this build work. And so I make that swap, I do actually merge these 2 leagues together. And I start upgrading my character. For example, I equip a Perseverance belt for permanent onslaught and increased attack damage. I craft some rings to fix resistances. I noticed that even with decent gear, this build in SSF has some serious resistance and attribute challenges. Strength is quite hard to get, which is why Big Ducks uses a Legion jewel which provides tons of strength, but I don't have that yet in SSF. That means my other pieces have to make up for that, and as a result, this guy has pretty good gear in the end. Just for me to be able to play in SSF. That's also a bit of a red flag in terms of SSF viability. I've come more and more to the realization that this is a really bad SSF league starter because all these pieces are required or you're going to be facing almost impossible things to solve in terms of resistances or attributes. I gamble for some gear as well. These boots, for example, is pretty good with life, movement, speed and suppress. I realize I keep random fun corrupted uniques around as well and equip a Perseverance with Determination effect for more armor. Some time ago, I found a foil Sapphir's Flame, and what better time to use it than now? This thing prevents me from blocking attacks, but provides a lot of resistances and max res, and I am starved for resistances currently. Apart from that, for now, there's not too many challenges, so it is time for my first tier 16 map after all of these adjustments. As you can probably tell by this extended clip, the damage is okay, but really nothing to write home about. Sure, my skill gems are still leveling, although they're all roughly level 18 or 19 at this point. I don't think I have unrealistic expectations. I mostly feel like I'm still missing some pieces of the puzzle, also because I swapped so late into the build. It's a bit like joining a workshop halfway through the workshop, while others already have drawn 75% of the solution on the whiteboard, and now they're asking me to figure out the last 25%. This isn't a great situation to be in, because I feel I need to do that other 75% as well in order to solve the rest of the puzzle. It's possible, I mean, clearing maps with this guy is possible in this state, but it's not ideal. And that is already with very good gear you wouldn't realistically have in SSF in the first couple of days. And it is a juicy map, sure, but again, there is no life on this map, for example. Halfway through the map, I decide this just isn't working and I portal out. It's time for some more upgrades and figuring out what the actual issue is here. I get a better Piscator's Vigil and craft base crit using Harvest Juice, that should help capping crit chance. I decided to give my Merc the Impulsa that I found on the last episode that may help clear a little bit. I find myself a better Merc, this one has Wrath Aura, which should help quite a bit. My support gems are leveling up, so it is time to get the 20% quality versions, that typically also is a decent damage boost. I try some Legion for the Timeless Jewel, but I get the wrong one. I'm also using my main character for this content, by the way. I take another good look at the guide and realize the importance of Lion Eyes Vision, as it provides pierce. That should be great for clear. I got plenty of those lying around. I decide to corrupt one after 6 socketing it, and I get a great corrupted implicit +2 to projectiles. I then use a few tainted orbs of fusing that I managed to gather throughout the regular SSF, and after spending 4 of them, I have a 6-linked corrupted Lion Eyes Vision. Using tainted chromatic orbs, I get the colors that I need, and this is a big upgrade. I swap some more pieces around, get myself a cast on damage taken molten shell setup, including a Val molten shell that I can press when it gets dicey. That adds a good chunk of tankiness to the build when you need it. After all these changes, I jump into another jungle valley, and the build does feel quite a bit better to play. It is starting to get somewhere for sure. As this is supposed to be a mapper, I like to add an inspired learning, a mini headhunter. I think it's fun and there's a decent spot for it right over here. I even have a corrupted version with corrupted blood immunity, and these I found always very farmable in SSF using div cards. It's really not hard to get at all, and I have a few of them already. I've also found a Gravebind some time ago and decide now is the time to put that to use. The Gravebind I give to my mercenary, and with an Impulsa that means any enemies that I kill explode for 5% of life as lightning damage. And that's another nice piece of tech for clearing the maps. Yes, clearly Doriani's will be better, but I don't have the negative resistance rings yet. Also, I'm not really a fan of that unique and that whole thing, it feels like cheating. I also decided to give her a Wind Ripper for Magic Find, basically. And sure enough, after all these improvements, here is another jungle valley. You can see me doing a little bit better, stealing some modifiers from rares, being pretty zoomy, and still getting a bunch of shrine buffs, of course. I think if I get some more gear for specific content, this is quite a cozy build. Here you see me do a blight mechanic, and because of the huge range, this feels quite comfortable. However, I also have an SRS Guardian, which would be better suited for this content. As a matter of fact, that's a thought that crosses my mind quite often. Unless this character starts one-shotting tier 16 maps, the packs in it, I mean, which is what my SRS Guardian does while exploding the whole screen, this character is zoomier, but in fact not faster for map clear. Which sort of begs the question why I am playing it, right? This Ellie hit wonder has much better movement speed, but so far worse clear. So overall it takes longer to complete tier 16 maps. I think it could be better, but that does require even more investment. It is time for some more investment though. I found quite a nice +1 amulet, which after some crafting will be part of the outfit. I equip a corrupted searching eye jewel, which I probably got from the Val Temple, for a bunch of added flat elemental damage, and that is it. Let's jump in game to give you a quick overview of the current character. So this is my character. As you can see, it's level 94. It's got about 3.8k life. A little bit of energy shield, which is going to be gone immediately. Yeah, there's really not much else to tell here. Defenses, quite okay. 100% spell suppression. And freeze immune, but that's about it. Let's take a look at the gear. So we're starting with the wand. This is the Piscator's Vigil. I crafted with Harvest Crafting. Some crit chance on there, so the critical strike chance is 10.64, which is pretty decent. This weapon has quite a big increased elemental damage stat, and it also penetrates 5% elemental resistances. The helmet is pretty standard. This is not a great helmet at all, but it's got armor and evasion, and some spell suppression, and a little bit of life and some resistances. The amulet I think is quite good. I put in depth perception. This isn't the most expensive anointment, but it's pretty decent for the build. I feel I needed some accuracy and also some crit chance. It's got +1 to fire, and elemental hit counts as all of the elemental tags, including fire, so that's good. And then there's quite a bit of resistances on here as well, plus a bunch of attributes which I really need. The Cephal's frame, we already talked about this. I think this is quite a nice shield to have actually, and it's a foil one. I mean, I'm always happy when I can wear those. A Chaos Ring with very decent resistances, and I crafted some life on there. Another Chaos Ring with even more Chaos resistances, and I crafted some flat lightning damage on there. The Lion Eyes Vision, of course, as we already talked about. The gloves have also a good number of life, decent resistances, the triple elemental res resistances over there, and then some flat cold damage to attacks. The Perseverance with Determination, which we saw in the video, and then the boots, which I think we also saw. Movement speed, spell suppression, life, and even more attributes, because I really need those attributes. For flasks, I have bleeding immunity, of course, and then diamond, granite, quicksilver, and jade. I will also take you through the skills that I'm using. So I have a Mark on Hit, Life Tap, Assassin's Mark support. This just automatically casts Assassin Mark for more crit chance and also some power charges. I have Precision linked to Arrogance, so that reserves my life instead of my mana. Cast some damage taken, Molten Shell, which I think is quite nice. I leveled this up very highly, but you know, you can also do this lower, of course. Life Tap, Second Wind, and Corrupting Fever. The only reason why you're putting Second Wind and Life Tap on here is because of the reservation multipliers. So what this needs to do is reserve more, or cost more than half your life, so that it can proc the adrenaline buff. So I have it on my W here. If I press it, you can see that I'm gaining a buff right here, adrenaline. And that is because I have gone below low life, or I've reached low life. So I've gone below 50% life. And that is only the case because of my Corrupting Fever and Second Wind and Life Tap support. So only then do you reserve enough life for actually getting the buff. And you have to keep this up as well, right? So every 20 seconds, ideally, you have to press this button, which doesn't always happen, clearly. So this buff isn't up all the time. So that's something that during mapping you just have to think about. Then I have the main skill. It's Elemental Hit of the Spectrum. It's currently level 23. I don't really dare corrupting this. I'm not sure what's going to happen, right? So I'm going to keep it at 2020, and then I have +2 from the item, and I have +1 from my amulet. It's linked to Inspiration, to Sacred Wisps, Trinity, Volatility, because it's mostly lightning damage, and returning projectiles. And this is for clear. I also have a barrage support in my offhand somewhere. And all of these skills, by the way, are according to the guide, right? So I'm not really reinventing anything or something. Then for some auras, I have Grace, Determination, Blood Rage, still for frenzy charges and attack speed, and then Frostblank for a movement skill. And finally, Shield Charge, Rage support, faster attacks, and Life Tap. This is just an incredibly fast shield charge, which is quite nice to get through the maps. Then my mercenary, which really isn't optimized at all yet, but hey. I have the Leer cast, so I do 50% increased damage. The Wind Ripper, which is, it's got decent flat elemental damage, but also increased rarity by shocked and frozen enemies. I'm not freezing a whole lot, but I'm shocking everyone, so that's good. The Perkle's Toe, of course, which everyone knows at this point. The Aohana's Bite, which chills enemies as though dealing more damage. So this adds just a bunch of chill effect to this mercenary. The Taming, as there are quite a few ailments on the enemies. The Stormfire, which just adds a bunch of flat lightning damage for this guy. and also makes him ignite, so that's another ailment. Grave Bind that I talked about already, the Calm's Binding, which makes it that they deal their physical damage as fire if they're getting hit, and then some shoes. I could equip something better here, I'm sure, but now we're dealing with this. And as you can see, this is far from an optimized merc in any way. It doesn't even have a 6 link. But it does have what I need, which is the Wrath Aura, and it also casts Assassin Mark, which is quite nice. So then we both do that and I'm getting a bunch of power charges. And in terms of playstyle, there's really not that much to say. The only thing I need to do every now and then is press W so that I can, you know, get my life below half like this, so I can get the buff. And then the rest is just walking around and pressing the elemental hit of the spectrum. I really don't have much else going on here. I can press Blood Rage if I want to, and that is really about it. And I have on my right mouse button Foul Molten Shell, which if I have enough souls, then I will press it in a dicey situation, and that's about it. And that's also about it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this probably last update for this character. It's likely that I will keep playing around with this some more, but at least for now, this is what it will be. I hope you enjoyed this journey. I am already thinking of the next one, and I was inspired by some other content creators that I watched. So look forward to some of these more journeys, and I'm also planning to make some more content. So hopefully I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.